Hello model railroad fans. I'm going to do a how-to video on installing infrared sensors. The first one I did was kind of disjointed, so I thought I'd do it again since I've kind of perfected my method. You know, I'm sure there's other ways, but I'm just going to show you the way I do it. So the first thing I had to do is drill a hole down through the middle of the track between the two ties where I want the sensor. Now, your train doesn't have to stop right on the sensor. You can use a wait millisecond command inside JMRI script to let the train travel a little further based on where you actually want to line it up. And then I get under the table and use my hole saw. This is a 7/8 inch hole saw, and that green tape is so I know how far to drill up into the layout. I have a 1/2 inch plywood and a 1 inch foam, so that'll take me right up to the cork under the track. And then I use a 7/8 inch bit to clean out the foam, and I want to be careful not to push that up too far because I don't want to tear up the cork. And then when that's all cleaned out, I go above the layout and I use a file to open up the space between the ties. I'll probably use this drill to go back and forth between the ties to open it up, but then I use this square drill to go clear up to the rails on each side and make sure I've got enough distance for the sensor to look through there. The next thing I do is take this is 1/2 inch inside diameter, 7/8 on the outside piece of irrigation pipe. I cut it to 1.5 inches or so. Then I stick it up in the hole and I glue it in there. And I wait for the glue to dry. And the reason I do that is I want to be able to easily remove my sensor if I have to. So the sensor slides right up in there. And then I made these quick and dirty little plates to hold the sensor from falling out. So once I've got the sensor up and I know it's working, then I just put this plate up in there, and it still has room for the wires to stick out. And I screw it in the bottom so the sensor's not coming out unless I want it to. So on the wiring, the left side is the signal or the output. So I use a female to female DuPont connector, and then I use a real short male DuPont connector that fits in there. And these short guys are male to male. And I cut off the male end and put on this little small compression connector. And then I'll run my wiring, some wiring I have to, this happens to be 22 gauge. I'll run that over to another DuPont connector with a connector on the end. I have to, be under the table to connect the sensor wire back over from the corner of the layout to the Arduino. So then I have this piece on the end of the sensor wire, and then I use this little DuPont clip expander or whatever they call these things. So then I just plug this in, and then this goes into the Arduino. So if I need to, and I can just pull this out and pull all the wires out, makes it real easy. And then on the power, the middle wire is the ground, and the outside wire is the power. In this case, I'm just using any color. So this is your power and this is your ground. And on my DC bus connectors, my ground is green. So I used a little short DuPont connector, cut the end off, and then I'll connect this to my DC bus line, 5-volt bus line. and then crimp that down and connect it. That way it gives me flexibility. I can disconnect this from the power or this from the sensor wire, and just take out the sensor altogether. So I think that gives me a lot of flexibility. So next part of this video, I'll show you one installed, how that looks. This shows how I've attached my Arduino to the layout. This is just kind of a quick and dirty attachment. I had this plywood board, so I used it, and it's my little plate to hold the Arduino. It's got the motor shield on it and a Mega Arduino. Up here at the top, these are my wires coming in from the individual sensors. I labeled them so I know what was what. And this is how they go into the one connector, and then it has several legs on it that push into the Arduino, so I can just pull the whole connector out, not mess with individual wires. And so that's how that's working. And down here on the right side here is the power supply going into the motor shield. And I cut the trace on it so it doesn't flow that power down into the Mega itself. And then these other two wires here go into my track, and I have it disconnected now because I'm using my MRC controller. But those just push together. This is the USB cable that goes into the computer. So that's how my Arduino is set up. Okay, to configure your sensors inside your DCC setup, click on DCC, configure base station. Then over here, you add your sensors. I use the same index number, and this pin number is the pin number on the Arduino. And I keep them the same. I don't know that you actually have to do that, but I wasn't sure, so I'm not taking any chances, and I'm using them the same. These are the sensor tables inside the, the tools tables, and then you use this number, create this number. It puts the DS in front of the numbers for you. Then I give it the name of the sensor where it's at. And then the other thing I did was over on my panel layout, I put the sensors where they're located on the track. And I believe in the future, once a car trips that sensor, I can show this section of the track, occupied. I haven't tried that yet, but I think I can. Then these other numbers on here, the black numbers, are my switch numbers. So if I'm running my handheld controller, I can know which number does what. And when you're running JMRI, you just click on them to change it. So that's quick and dirty on how you set up the sensors inside JMRI.